Mariam is just trying to survive as a marketing coordinator when her CEO drops a bombshell. Marry me in 48 hours or watch 200 people lose their jobs. Jihoon Kang is facing deportation, orchestrated by a corrupt business partner stealing from the company. His solution: a fake marriage to his trusted employee. The offer: $2 million to fool immigration and save everything they've built. For Mariam, it's an impossible choice. The money would transform her family's life in Nigeria, pay her father's medical bills, send her siblings to university, secure their future. But marriage fraud carries a 5-year prison sentence. As they rehearse their love story, coordinate social media posts, and survive intense immigration interviews, the lines blur. Late-night strategy sessions turn into genuine conversations. Staged affection becomes real comfort. Taking down corporate fraud together forges an unexpected partnership. When Jihoon's traditional Korean mother arrives for inspection and immigration approves their marriage, they face a new question. Now that they've fooled everyone else, can they stop fooling themselves? You won't believe how this story ends. Stick around. To hear more stories like this, please subscribe to this channel. The coffee mug shattered against the marble floor of the executive office, spraying dark liquid across Mariam's cream-colored heels. She froze, her hand still clutching the quarterly report she'd been about to present, and looked up to find her boss standing at the window with his back to her. His shoulders rigid with tension she'd never seen before in 3 years of working at Kang Tech Industries. "Mr. Kang," her voice came out smaller than she intended. He didn't turn around. His reflection in the glass showed a face she barely recognized, stripped of the usual calm composure that made him one of the most respected CEOs in the tech industry. His tie was loosened, his normally perfect hair disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. "Lock the door," he said quietly. Mariam's heart started hammering. In 3 years, they'd never been alone in his office with the door locked. She was a mid-level marketing coordinator. He was the founder and CEO of a company worth $300 million. They occupied different universes within the same building. "Sir, I don't think that's—" "Lock it, please." The break in his voice made her move. She turned the lock with trembling fingers, the click echoing in the suddenly oppressive silence. When she turned back, he was finally facing her, and the look in his eyes sent ice through her veins. "You're in danger," he said flatly, "and I need you to pretend I'm your husband." The words hung in the air between them, so absurd that Mariam almost laughed. Almost. But the fear in his eyes, the way his hands were clenched into fists at his sides, the muscle jumping in his jaw, none of it suggested a joke. "I'm sorry, what?" He crossed the distance between them in 3 long strides, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with the sharp scent of stress sweat. "I don't have time to explain this gently. Immigration is revoking my visa. I have 48 hours before they deport me back to South Korea. If that happens, this company collapses. 237 people lose their jobs, including you." Mariam's mind struggled to process the information. Mr. Kang, Jihoon Kang, the man who'd built this company from nothing, who'd been featured in Forbes and Tech Insider, who had a penthouse apartment and drove a Tesla, was about to be deported. "But you've been here for almost a decade. How can they just—" "My business partner made it happen." His voice was bitter. "James Chen. He has connections in immigration. He's been stealing from the company for over a year, and I found out. This is his way of removing me before I can expose him." "That's insane. Can't you fight it? Get lawyers." "I have lawyers. They say it'll take months, maybe years to untangle the bureaucratic web he's created. I don't have months." He pulled out his phone, showed her an official-looking document with government seals. "I have 48 hours." Mariam stared at the document, then at him. "Okay, but I still don't understand what this has to do with me pretending to be your—" She couldn't even say the word. "You're a dual citizen. Nigerian and American. You've worked here for 3 years, which establishes that we've known each other long enough for a legitimate relationship. You're 29, I'm 41, which is a believable age gap. And most importantly, he paused, and something shifted in his expression. You're the only person in this company I trust completely. The weight of those words settled on her shoulders like a physical thing. Mr. Kang, this is marriage fraud. It's illegal. We could both go to prison. If we get caught, yes. But if we don't try, 200 people definitely lose their jobs, their health insurance, their ability to feed their families. He pulled up something else on his phone, a list of names she recognized. Maria in accounting, who had 3 kids. David in IT, whose wife was undergoing cancer treatment. Priya in HR, who was 8 months pregnant. James will gut this company and sell it for parts within a month of my departure. He's already got buyers lined up. Mariam felt her knees weaken. She'd worked so hard to get where she was. She sent money home to Lagos every month to support her younger siblings' education. Her parents were so proud of her success in America. If she lost this job, "There has to be another way," she whispered. "I've spent the last 72 hours looking for one. This is it." He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. "I know what I'm asking is insane. I know we barely know each other beyond work, but I'm desperate, Mariam, and I promise you I will make this worth your while, financially and otherwise. This isn't about money." $1 million. The number stopped her mid-sentence. She stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "What?" $1 million, transferred to your account the day after we successfully convince immigration that our marriage is legitimate. Plus you keep your job, obviously. And after this is over, after we can safely divorce without raising suspicion, another million. He said it as casually as if he were discussing a marketing budget. $2 million. Mariam's entire body went numb. She could pay off her family's house in Lagos, send all 4 of her siblings to university. Her parents could retire. She could. "Why me?" she asked again. "You could hire someone, a professional, someone who does this kind of thing." For the first time, something almost like a smile touched his lips. "Because those people get caught. Immigration isn't stupid. They look for patterns, for people who have done this before. You're clean. You're genuine. You're smart enough to pull this off. And you have an actual reason to care whether this company survives." He paused. "And because 3 months ago, when I found out David's wife was sick and the insurance company was denying her claims, you stayed until midnight helping me draft the appeal letter. You didn't have to do that. It wasn't your job, but you did it anyway." Mariam remembered that night. She'd found Mr. Kang in his office at 9 p.m., surrounded by medical documents he clearly didn't understand, trying to navigate insurance bureaucracy to help an employee. She'd offered to help without thinking, the same way she would have helped anyone. It hadn't occurred to her that he'd remember. "You notice things," she said softly. "I notice everything about my employees, especially the exceptional ones." He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer, slid it across to her. "This is the contract. Read it. Think about it. But I need an answer in the next 6 hours because we have paperwork to file, rings to buy, and a story to coordinate." Mariam's hands shook as she opened the folder. The contract was thorough, professionally drafted, covering every contingency. Duration of marriage, financial arrangements, living situation, grounds for early termination, non-disclosure agreements. It was all laid out in clinical legal language, as if they were negotiating a business merger rather than a fake marriage. "We'd have to live together," she said, scanning the residency requirements section. "Immigration does home visits. Sometimes without warning, it has to look real." He ran a hand through his hair again. "I have a 3-bedroom penthouse. You'd have your own space, your own bathroom, complete privacy, house rules negotiable. And we'd have to pretend to be intimate, convincingly. We'd have to pretend to be in love, yes. That means couple photos, knowing personal details about each other, coordinating our stories. Physical affection might be necessary in front of immigration officers, but nothing beyond what you're comfortable with. That's in the contract, Section 7. He pointed to the relevant clause. Your boundaries are absolute. I won't cross them. Mariam kept reading. The contract specified separate bedrooms, limits on physical contact, provisions for ending the arrangement if either party felt unsafe or uncomfortable. It was surprisingly thoughtful for something so transactional. How long would this last? Minimum 6 months, ideally a year, to avoid suspicion when we file for divorce. The contract allows for early termination under specific circumstances outlined in Section 12. 6 months to a year of living with her boss, pretending to be his wife, lying to federal agents, potentially going to prison if they got caught. Or watching 200 people lose their jobs, losing her own job, disappointing her family, starting over from nothing. I need to think about it, she said. You have until 6 o'clock. After that, I'll have to find another option, though honestly there isn't a good one. He pulled his suit jacket from the back of his chair, straightened his tie. In seconds, he transformed back into the composed CEO she knew, though his eyes still held that desperate edge. For what it's worth, I am truly sorry for putting you in this position, if there was any other way. I know, she said quietly. And somehow she did know. Whatever else Jihoon Kang might be, he wasn't the kind of man who'd involve an innocent employee in fraud unless he was truly out of options. She left his office in a daze, the folder tucked under her arm, and made it approximately 15 feet before her best friend Keisha from the design department grabbed her elbow. Girl, what the hell was that about? You were in there for 30 minutes with the door locked. People are talking. Mariam blinked at her, still trying to re-enter normal reality. What? Chen was by earlier looking for Kang, got all weird and pissy when he saw the door was locked, started muttering about how some people don't know their place. Keisha's eyes narrowed. What's going on? James Chen, the business partner who was trying to steal the company. Mariam felt a chill run down her spine. When was he here? Like 20 minutes ago. Why, Mariam, you're scaring me. I can't talk about it, not yet, maybe not ever. She squeezed her friend's hand. But if I ask you a really weird question in the next few days, I need you to trust me, okay? What kind of weird question? The kind I can't explain right now. Mariam glanced around the open office space, suddenly aware of how many people were watching them. I have to go. I'll call you tonight. She retreated to her desk in the marketing bullpen, set the folder in her bottom drawer under a stack of campaign proposals, and tried to pretend everything was normal. But her hands kept shaking. Her mind kept spinning. $2 million, 200 jobs, 48 hours. She opened her laptop and pulled up her banking app, stared at the balance. $43,000. 3 years of saving aggressively, sending money home, living in a tiny studio apartment. It was a decent amount for someone her age, but it wasn't life-changing. It wasn't house in Lagos and university for all her siblings' money. It wasn't retire her parents' money. $2 million would change everything. But prison would end everything. She pulled out her phone and texted her younger sister in Lagos, just checking in. How's school? The response came 20 minutes later. Good. But Papa's blood pressure is acting up again. Mama says not to worry, but I heard her talking about the hospital bills. Mariam's chest tightened. Her father's health had been declining for the past year. The medication was expensive, even by American standards. In Nigeria, it was crushing their family's finances. How much do they need? She typed. I don't know, maybe 3,000. But Mariam, don't send money. You already do so much. $3,000. A fraction of what she made, but it would wipe out months of savings. And there would always be another crisis, another emergency. Her family depended on her and she loved them fiercely, but the weight of being the successful child, the one who'd made it to America, was becoming unbearable. $2 million would lift that weight forever. She stared at her phone for a long moment, then opened a new message to her mother. "I love you, Mama. Tell Papa I'm sending money for his medication tomorrow." Her mother's response was immediate. "Thank you, my daughter. God bless you. We are so proud." Proud? They were so proud of her. What would they think if they knew what she was considering? At 5:30, Mariam pulled the folder from her drawer and read the contract again. Then a third time. She looked up case law on marriage fraud on her phone, terrified someone would see her search history. The penalties were steep. Fines up to $250,000, up to 5 years in prison, deportation for the non-citizen spouse. But the cases she found were mostly obvious frauds, people who'd never lived together, couples who couldn't answer basic questions about each other, marriages that fell apart under the slightest scrutiny. We'd have to make it perfect, she thought, completely believable. At 5:45, her phone buzzed with a message from Mr. Kang. "No pressure. Whatever you decide, I understand, but I need to know soon." She looked around the office. Maria was packing up her desk, laughing at something on her phone, probably a video from one of her kids. David was on a call, animated and relaxed in a way he hadn't been before his wife's treatment started working. Priya was rubbing her pregnant belly, talking to someone about nursery colors. These were real people with real lives. People who'd welcomed her when she first arrived, nervous and uncertain. People who'd celebrated her birthday, contributed to the office baby shower fund, asked about her family back home. James Chen sat in his corner office, visible through the glass walls, looking smug and satisfied. He had no idea she knew what he'd done, no idea that his plan might be about to fall apart. At 5:58, Mariam stood up, smoothed her skirt and walked back to the executive floor. Mr. Kang's assistant had already left for the day. The office was eerily quiet. She knocked on his door. "Come in." He was standing at the window again, silhouetted against the city lights beginning to glow in the dusk. He turned when she entered, and she saw him brace himself for rejection. "I have conditions," she said. His eyes widened slightly. "I'm listening." "First, complete honesty from this point forward. No more surprises. If there's something I need to know, you tell me immediately." "Agreed." "Second, we tell my family the truth. I'm not lying to my parents about something this serious. They'll keep the secret, but they deserve to know." He hesitated, then nodded. "That's fair. Actually, it might make things more believable if immigration interviews them." "Third, if at any point I feel unsafe or uncomfortable, I can walk away. No penalties, no hard feelings." "That's already in the contract, but yes, absolutely." "And fourth," she took a deep breath, "if we get caught, you take full responsibility. You tell them you manipulated me, coerced me. I don't care if it's not true. You're rich enough to survive legal consequences. I'm not." Something flickered in his expression, hurt maybe or admiration. "I won't let it come to that, but yes, if we're caught, I'll protect you. You have my word." "Then I'll do it." The words came out steady, stronger than she felt. "I'll marry you." The relief that washed over his face was so profound it was almost painful to watch. He crossed to his desk, pulled out his phone, made a quick call. "Sarah, it's Jihoon. We're moving forward. I need you to file the paperwork first thing tomorrow morning. Yes, everything we discussed. Thank you." He hung up and looked at Mariam with something that might have been respect. "Thank you. I know what you're risking." "You're risking just as much." "Maybe, but I created this situation. You're just trying to survive it." He pulled a small box from his desk drawer, opened it to reveal 2 simple gold bands. "I had these made this afternoon. Sized them based on your employee file. We can exchange them for something else if you prefer." The rings were beautiful in their simplicity. Elegant, understated, exactly what Mariam would have chosen if this were real. "They're perfect." "Good, now we need to coordinate our story." He gestured to the chairs at his conference table. "We started dating 6 months ago, kept it secret because of company policy about fraternization between executives and employees. Got serious quickly. I proposed 2 months ago, you said yes. We've been planning a small private ceremony. Does that work?" Mariam sat down, pulled out her phone to take notes. "How did we meet, beyond just working here?" "Office Christmas party last year. We ended up in the same conversation group, discovered we both hate small talk and love obscure documentaries. Started talking more at work, then I asked you to coffee." "Why did you fall in love with me?" The question felt absurd, but immigration would ask it. He was quiet for a moment, studying her face in a way that made her uncomfortable. "Because you're brilliant and kind in equal measure. Because you care about people, not just profit. Because you have this laugh that lights up a room, and I found myself doing stupid things just to hear it." He paused. "Is that believable enough?" It was too believable. The way he'd said it, with a slight catch in his voice, made her wonder if he'd been paying more attention to her than she'd realized. "Yeah, that works. What about me? Why did I fall in love with you?" "You tell me." She thought about it, trying to imagine a reality where her feelings for her boss had crossed professional lines. "Because beneath the CEO exterior, you're deeply principled. You care about your employees like family. You're brilliant but never condescending. And you have kind eyes." The last part slipped out before she could stop it, and she felt her cheeks heat. His expression softened. "Kind eyes, I'll take it." He made notes on his own phone. "We need to know personal details about each other. Favorite foods, habits, quirks, things a real couple would know." They spent the next 3 hours drilling each other. Mariam learned that Jihoon drank his coffee black with 1 sugar, that he'd wanted to be a pianist before business school, that his mother was traditional and slightly overbearing, but meant well, that he had a younger sister named Minji who lived in Seoul and called him every Sunday, that he was allergic to shellfish and secretly loved trashy reality TV shows. Jihoon learned that Mariam was the eldest of 5 children, that she'd come to America on a scholarship at 18 and worked 3 jobs to stay afloat until landing her position at Kang Tech, that she video-called her family every Saturday morning their time, which was Friday evening in New York, that she made the best jollof rice he would apparently ever taste, and that she cried at dog commercials but stayed stone-faced through horror movies. By 9 p.m., they had the foundation of a believable relationship. By 10, they'd coordinated their social media stories, backdating posts and photos to support their timeline. "We should practice," Jihoon said suddenly. "Practice what?" "Being affectionate. Immigration officers watch body language. If we flinch every time we touch each other, they'll know something's wrong." Mariam's stomach twisted. "Okay, what did you have in mind?" He stood, held out his hand. "Start simple, holding hands. Like we're walking down the street together." She took his hand. His palm was warm, slightly calloused, surprisingly gentle. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, then he started walking slowly around the conference table, guiding her with him. "This feels ridiculous," she muttered. "It feels like we're coworkers holding hands because our jobs depend on it, which is what we are. We need it to feel natural." He stopped, turned to face her. "Try again. But this time, imagine I'm not your boss. Imagine I'm just Jihoon, your husband, the man you chose." She closed her eyes, took a breath, and tried to reset her mental framework. When she opened them and looked at him, she tried to see past the CEO, past the expensive suit and the office and the power dynamic. Just a man who was terrified and desperate and trusting her with everything. She reached for his hand, and this time something shifted. Her fingers threaded through his more naturally. When he squeezed gently, she squeezed back. "Better," he said quietly. "Now can I put my arm around you?" She nodded. His arm came around her shoulders and she let herself lean into him slightly. He was taller than she'd realized, solid and warm. She could feel his heartbeat, fast but steady. "We'll get through this," he murmured, "together." And despite everything, despite the insanity of what they were about to do, Mariam found herself believing him. The courthouse was brutally efficient. They arrived at 9 a.m. with their paperwork in order. Two random strangers pulled from the hallway to serve as witnesses, and a judge who'd clearly performed 1,000 of these ceremonies and couldn't care less about one more. "Do you, Jihoon Kang, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "Do you, Mariam Okonkwo, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Mariam's throat was dry. Somewhere in Lagos, her parents were asleep, unaware that their daughter was committing federal fraud. "I do. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss if you'd like or not, I don't care. Next." They stood in the hallway afterward, officially married, holding a certificate that was both real and a complete lie. Jihoon had slipped the gold band on her finger during the ceremony. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. She couldn't stop staring at it. "Well," Jihoon said, "that happened." "That happened," she echoed. "So now what?" "Now we go meet with my immigration lawyer, file the paperwork, and start preparing for the interview." And he pulled out his phone, showed her a confirmation. "I've transferred 500,000 to your account. First installment. The rest comes after we clear immigration." $500,000. Mariam felt faint. "You didn't have to do that yet." "Yes, I did. You're taking all the risk here. You deserve security." He glanced at his watch. "We should go to my place. Your place, I guess. Our place. We need to make it look like you live there before immigration does their home visit." Moving her life into Jihoon's penthouse took less time than Mariam expected, mostly because she didn't own much. 3 suitcases of clothes, a box of books, her laptop, a few framed photos. The physical proof of her existence in America fit into Jihoon's Tesla with room to spare. The penthouse was exactly what she'd expected. Sleek, modern, minimalist to the point of sterility. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Kitchen with appliances that cost more than her annual rent. Art on the walls that was probably original and definitely expensive. "This is your room," Jihoon said, opening the door to what was clearly the master suite. "I'll take the guest room." "Don't be ridiculous. This is your home. I'll take the guest room." Immigration might check. Married couples share a bedroom. The master suite has to look like we both use it. He was already carrying her suitcases inside, setting them down near the walk-in closet. "Move your things in here. Make it look lived in. We'll figure out actual sleeping arrangements later, but this room needs to have both our stuff in it." She looked around the enormous space. King-sized bed with hotel-quality linens. Attached bathroom with a soaking tub and rain shower. Windows overlooking the city. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "Where will you actually sleep?" "There's a daybed in my study. I'll be fine." He was already hanging her dresses in the closet next to his suits, creating the visual of a shared life. "You okay?" No, she wasn't okay. She was standing in a stranger's bedroom, married to her boss, about to lie to federal agents. But she'd made her choice. "I'm fine. Let's just make this look believable." They spent the afternoon creating the appearance of cohabitation. Mariam's toiletries in the bathroom. Her books on the nightstand. Her clothes mixed with his in the closet. Photos of them together, carefully staged and backdated on social media, printed and framed. A coffee mug she'd bought with "World's Okayest Wife" printed on it, sitting next to his "World's Okayest Husband" mug. Little touches that said real couple, not elaborate fraud. By evening, the apartment looked lived in and loved in. You'd never guess that 24 hours ago, they'd been nothing more than boss and employee. "We should eat," Jihoon said, surveying their work. "I was going to order something, but immigration might check credit card receipts. Do you actually know how to make jollof rice, or was that part of the story?" She laughed despite herself. "I know how to make jollof rice. Do you have the ingredients?" I have no idea. Let's find out. His kitchen was predictably well stocked with ingredients he'd probably never used. She found rice, tomatoes, peppers, onions. No Scotch bonnets, but she could make do with what was there. She set to work while Jihoon watched, fascinated. You're really doing this from scratch? Did you think I was going to pull out a box mix? She was dicing onions, moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 meals made for her family. Cooking is chemistry. You measure, combine, adjust. Like running a business, really. He pulled up a bar stool, settled in to watch her work. Tell me about your family, beyond the basics for immigration. She told him about her father, a school teacher who'd instilled in all his children the value of education. About her mother, who ran a small tailoring business and could stretch a budget like nobody's business. About her siblings, each with their own dreams and struggles. About the small house in Lagos that was always full of noise and love and not quite enough of everything. That sounds nice, Jihoon said quietly. Chaotic but nice. What about your family? His expression closed off slightly. My mother is traditional. She had very specific ideas about who I should marry. And none of those ideas included a Korean man moving to America to build a tech company. We're not estranged, but we're not close. My sister Minji is the bridge. She keeps everyone connected. Does your mother know about the fake marriage? No, and she won't. She'd never forgive me. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm going to tell her I fell in love, that we're married. She'll be shocked that I didn't tell her sooner, but she'll accept it eventually. She's going to hate me, Mariam said, stirring the rice. Probably at first, but my mother's bark is worse than her bite. If you can survive the first few meetings, she'll come around. She always does. The rice was done, fragrant and perfect. She plated 2 servings, handed one to Jihoon, and watched as he took his first bite. His eyes widened. Oh my God. Good. This is the best thing I've eaten in months, maybe years. He took another bite, practically inhaling the food. You undersold this. You said the best jollof rice I'll ever taste. This is the best rice, period, of any kind. She felt absurdly pleased. It's just rice. It's perfect rice, and you made it in my kitchen, which means you can make it again. Please tell me you'll make it again. They ate together at the kitchen island, and for a brief, surreal moment, it almost felt normal. Like maybe they really were just a couple having dinner after a long day. But then her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, asking when she was going to call this week, and reality crashed back in. I need to tell my family, she said. We agreed I would. Do you want privacy? She shook her head. You should hear this conversation. You should know what I'm telling them. She set up her laptop on the kitchen counter and called her parents via video chat. It was Saturday morning in Lagos, which meant they'd be together, probably having breakfast. Her father answered, his face lighting up when he saw her. Mariam, how is my daughter in America? Hi, Papa, is Mama there? Her mother crowded into frame, beaming. We're both here. How are you, baby? It happened yesterday, very quickly, and the reason I didn't tell you before is because it's complicated. She glanced at Jihoon, who nodded encouragingly. It's a marriage of convenience. My boss needed to marry a citizen to avoid deportation, and I agreed to help him because if he gets deported, I lose my job. Everyone at the company loses their jobs. Her father's face had gone very still. Mariam, this is illegal. I know, Papa, but it's the only way, and we're going to make it look completely real. Immigration won't find out. And if they do? If they do, my husband, Jihoon, will take full responsibility. He'll say he coerced me. I have it in writing. Her mother was shaking her head, tears in her eyes. This is too dangerous. You should come home. I can't come home, Mama. This is my life, my career, and Jihoon is paying me $2 million to do this. That stopped them both cold. 2 million, her father repeated slowly. American dollars. Yes, 500,000 already transferred. The rest after immigration clears us. Papa, this money will change everything. You can retire. The kids can go to good universities. We can fix the house, pay all the medical bills, everything. She watched them exchange a long look, the silent communication of a couple who'd been together for 35 years. Finally, her father sighed. Put your husband on the phone. Mariam slid the laptop toward Jihoon, who sat up straighter, suddenly looking nervous in a way she'd never seen him look in business meetings. Sir, ma'am, I'm Jihoon Kang. You're the one who asked my daughter to commit fraud, her father said flatly. Yes, sir, I did, and I take full responsibility for that. I was desperate and I involved Mariam when I shouldn't have, but I promise you I will protect her with everything I have. If this goes wrong, I'll make sure she's safe. You can't promise that. No, sir, but I can try, and I can promise that I will treat her with respect and care for as long as this arrangement lasts. Her mother leaned forward, studying Jihoon's face. Do you love my daughter? Mama, Mariam protested. But Jihoon didn't hesitate. I respect her deeply. She's brilliant and kind, and I'm grateful she's willing to help me. Love might come in time or it might not, but I will never take her for granted. Her mother nodded slowly. Good, because if you hurt her, I will fly to America and hurt you. I understand, ma'am. They talked for another hour, her parents asking detailed questions about the arrangement, the timeline, the risks. Jihoon answered everything honestly, never trying to minimize the danger. By the end, her father seemed grudgingly satisfied. Call us every day, he said. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, we need to know you're safe. I will, Papa, I promise. After they hung up, Jihoon let out a long breath. Your parents are terrifying. They're protective. She closed the laptop. But they'll keep the secret. And now if immigration calls them to verify our relationship, they'll back up our story. Smart. He started cleaning up the dinner dishes. We have the immigration interview on Monday. 2 days to prepare. We should go over possible questions tonight, practice our answers. They drilled until midnight. Where did you meet? Office Christmas party. Who said I love you first? He did 3 months into dating. What's the last movie you watched together? Some documentary about deep-sea creatures. What side of the bed do you sleep on? She preferred the left, he took the right. What does he eat for breakfast? Toast with butter and black coffee. What's her morning routine? Shower, skincare, coffee while checking emails, never breakfast. By the time they finished, Mariam's brain felt like mush. She retreated to the master bedroom while Jihoon disappeared into his study with a blanket and pillow. She lay in his enormous bed, in her fake husband's apartment, wearing the gold ring that meant everything and nothing, and tried to process what her life had become in less than 48 hours. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jihoon, thank you for everything, sleep well. She typed back, you too, see you in the morning, husband. His response was a single emoji, a smiley face. It was so unexpected, so normal that she actually laughed. Maybe, she thought as she finally drifted off to sleep, they could actually pull this off. The immigration interview was scheduled for Monday morning at 9 a.m. They arrived at 8:30, both dressed conservatively, holding hands because that's what a real couple would do. The waiting room was full of other couples, some looking confident, others terrified. Mr. and Mrs. Kang, a severe-looking woman in a government-issued blazer, appeared with a clipboard. Follow me. They were led to a small, windowless room with a table, 3 chairs, and a camera in the corner. The woman sat across from them, opened a file folder, and smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes. I'm Officer Patricia Morrison. I'll be conducting your interview today. Before we begin, I need to remind you that lying to a federal officer is a crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am, they said in unison. Officer Morrison pulled out a stack of papers. Let's start with the basics. How did you two meet? Jihoon squeezed Mariam's hand and she took the lead. At our office Christmas party last year, we ended up in the same conversation group. Everyone else was doing small talk about sports and weather, but Jihoon and I started talking about this documentary we'd both seen about ocean exploration. And when did the relationship become romantic? He asked me to coffee a few weeks later, Jihoon said smoothly. January 15th. It was freezing outside and Mariam showed up in this bright yellow coat that made her look like sunshine. I knew right then I was in trouble. The detail was new, something they hadn't rehearsed. Mariam glanced at him, surprised, but he was looking at Officer Morrison with perfect sincerity. You work together, Morrison said, consulting her notes. At Kang Tech Industries. Mr. Kang, you're the CEO. Mrs. Kang, you're a marketing coordinator. That's quite a power imbalance. We were careful, Mariam said. We kept the relationship private for months because of company fraternization policies. We didn't want anyone to think I was getting special treatment or that he was abusing his position. And yet you got married very quickly, only 6 months of dating. Jihoon leaned forward. When you know, I'm 41 years old. I've dated enough to recognize something real when I find it. Mariam is brilliant, compassionate, and she makes me want to be better. Why would I wait? And you, Mrs. Kang, didn't the age gap concern you, the power dynamic? Mariam met Morrison's eyes steadily. At first, yes, I was worried about what people would think, about how it would affect my career, but Jihoon never made me feel less than equal. He respects my opinions, values my input. Age is just a number. What matters is how you treat each other. Morrison made notes. Let's talk about your living situation. You moved into Mr. Kang's penthouse on Friday. That's very recent. We thought it made sense after the wedding, Jihoon said. Mariam's apartment was tiny, barely room for one person. This way we have space. She has her own office, I have mine. We're not on top of each other all the time. Show me your wedding rings. They held out their hands. Morrison examined the bands closely, checking for wear patterns, testing the fit. These look new. They are new, Mariam said. We bought them the day before the wedding. Simple gold bands, nothing fancy. We wanted something classic. No engagement ring. I didn't want one, Mariam said. I'm practical. I'd rather spend money on experiences than jewelry. Morrison nodded slowly, made more notes. I'm going to separate you now, ask you each questions individually. Standard procedure. If your stories match, we move forward. If they don't, she left the threat hanging. Jihoon was taken to another room. Mariam was left alone with Officer Morrison and the camera's unblinking eye. Let's start simple, Morrison said. What side of the bed does your husband sleep on? Right side, I take the left. What does he eat for breakfast? Toast with butter, black coffee with 1 sugar. He's very predictable about breakfast. What time does he wake up? 6 a.m., even on weekends. He can't sleep past 7 even if he tries. Does he have any allergies? Shellfish. Found that out the hard way on our 3rd date when I suggested sushi. The questions came rapid fire. What's his mother's name, his sister's? What did you do for your first date? When's his birthday? What's his favorite color? Favorite movie? Does he prefer showers or baths? What's his morning routine? Mariam answered everything, drawing on the hours of drilling they'd done. Some answers came easily. Others she had to think about, which was probably more realistic than perfect recall. Tell me about your wedding night, Morrison said suddenly. Mariam felt her cheeks heat. We were exhausted. We'd been up since 5 a.m. handling paperwork, then the ceremony, then moving my stuff. We ordered Thai food, ate it on the couch, and fell asleep watching a movie. Not very romantic, but we were too tired to care. You didn't consummate the marriage. That's private, Mariam said firmly. But since you're asking, no, we were both too exhausted. Is that a crime? Just establishing facts, Mrs. Kang. Morrison flipped through her notes. Your husband's visa was set to be revoked this week. Convenient timing for a wedding. There it was, the real question under all the others. Mariam kept her face neutral. I didn't know about the visa issue until after we were engaged. He told me 2 weeks ago. It scared me, honestly. The thought of losing him right when we'd found each other. But you'd still get to keep your job if he stayed. Yes, along with everyone else at the company, but that's not why I married him. She leaned forward, putting real emotion into her voice. Officer Morrison, I understand you have to be suspicious. It's your job, but I love my husband. Yes, the timing looks suspicious. Yes, there's a power imbalance. Yes, we moved fast, but none of that changes the fact that I want to spend my life with him. Morrison studied her face for a long moment. We'll see if he tells the same story. They reunited in the waiting room 30 minutes later. Jihoon looked pale but composed. They weren't allowed to speak until they were outside the building. How did it go? Mariam asked the moment they hit the sidewalk. I have no idea. She asked about everything. Our first date, our first kiss, what you eat for breakfast, what side of the bed you sleep on. Did I answer everything right? I don't know. What did you say I eat for breakfast? You don't. You just have coffee while checking emails. And what did you say about our first kiss? Second date outside the coffee shop. You had foam on your upper lip from your latte and I kissed it off without thinking. He paused. Did I make that up? I can't remember if we decided on that. We didn't decide on that, but it's perfect. She laughed, slightly hysterical. God, I can't tell what's real and what's fake anymore. Neither can I, he guided her toward his car. But I think we did okay. She can't prove it's fraud if all our answers match and we genuinely seem to care about each other. Do we seem to care about each other? He opened the passenger door for her. I think we're getting there. We've spent more time together in the last 3 days than most couples spend in 3 months. That has to count for something. They drove back to the apartment in silence, both too drained to talk. Once inside, Mariam kicked off her heels and collapsed on the couch. Jihoon loosened his tie, poured them both glasses of wine. To surviving day 1, he said, handing her a glass. Day 1 of how many? Immigration said we'd hear back in 3 to 5 business days. If we pass, we're clear for 6 months, then we have another interview. 6 months of this. 6 months of this. He sat beside her, clinked his glass against hers. We can do 6 months. Mariam took a long drink. The wine was expensive, smooth, probably cost more than she used to spend on groceries in a month. What happens if we fail, if they figure it out? Then I get deported, you might face charges, and we both hire very expensive lawyers. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing quarterly projections. But we're not going to fail. How can you be so confident? Because I've bet everything on worse odds and won. He turned to face her. Do you know what everyone said when I started this company? That I was too young, too inexperienced, that the market was oversaturated. I proved them wrong. This is just another challenge. This is federal fraud, not a business risk. Same principle. Calculate the odds, minimize the variables you can control, execute perfectly. He took another sip of wine. Besides, we have one advantage most fraud cases don't have. What's that? We actually like each other. Most fake marriages fall apart because the people involved can't stand to be in the same room. We're friends, or at least friendly. That authenticity will come through. Mariam wanted to argue, but he had a point. She'd been dreading this arrangement, expecting awkwardness and tension. Instead, she'd found herself genuinely enjoying Jihoon's company. He was smart and funny in an understated way. He listened when she talked. He treated her like an equal, not a subordinate or a prop. I guess we are friends, she said slowly. Weird. Why is it weird? Because 3 days ago you were just my boss. Now you're my husband, my friend, a person I actually know. It's a lot of change very fast. Welcome to my entire life. He set down his wine glass. Everything moves fast. You adapt or you drown. Do you ever get tired of it, the constant motion? He was quiet for a long moment. Yes, sometimes I think about what it would be like to just stop, live simply, maybe buy a small house somewhere quiet, work with my hands instead of my brain. He shook his head. But then I remember all the people depending on me, and stopping isn't an option. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also exhilarating. Building something from nothing, seeing it grow, knowing you created jobs and opportunities for hundreds of people. He looked at her. Don't you feel that way about your work? You built our entire marketing campaign from scratch. You should be proud. She was proud, actually. She'd taken Kang Tech's marketing from amateur hour to professional grade in 3 years. But it had never occurred to her that Jihoon noticed, let alone appreciated it. Thank you, she said quietly, for seeing me, not just as an employee but as a person. You're easy to see, Mariam. You're brilliant and bright, and you light up every room you enter. Anyone who doesn't notice that is an idiot. The compliment hit her harder than it should have. She'd spent 3 years at Kang Tech feeling invisible, just another cog in the machine. But Jihoon had noticed, had been noticing all along. Her phone buzzed, text from Keisha, girl, office rumor mill says you and Kang got married. Call me immediately. Mariam groaned. It started, everyone knows. Let me see. Jihoon read the text, grimaced. We knew this would happen, you should call her, control the narrative. What do I say? The truth. We fell in love, got married quickly, wanted to keep it private, but word got out. You're happy and that's all that matters. Mariam stepped into the bedroom and called Keisha, who answered on the first ring. Explain right now. Hi Keisha, how's your Monday going? Don't you dare make jokes. Did you actually marry Jihoon Kang, the CEO, your boss? Yes, we got married on Friday. The shriek that came through the phone could have shattered glass. What, how, when? Why didn't you tell me? It happened really fast. We've been seeing each other for a few months, keeping it quiet because of work. He proposed, I said yes, we didn't want to wait. A few months. Mariam, you've been lying to me for months. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but it was complicated. The power dynamic, company policy, everything. We didn't want to cause problems. Keisha was quiet for a moment, processing. Are you happy? Does he treat you well? Because I swear to God, if he's using his position to manipulate you. He's not, I promise. He's actually really sweet, thoughtful. He makes me laugh. I know it looks crazy from the outside, but it feels right. Girl, I need details, all the details. When did this start? How did it start? Have you met his family? Does your family know? Mariam spent 20 minutes feeding Keisha carefully curated information, enough to satisfy curiosity without revealing anything dangerous. By the end, her friend sounded cautiously supportive. Okay, I still think you're insane, but if you're happy, I'm happy for you. Just promise me one thing. What? If he hurts you, you'll tell me, and then you'll let me hurt him. Mariam laughed. Deal. I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? She emerged from the bedroom to find Jihoon on his laptop, frowning at the screen. Problem, she asked. James Chen just requested an emergency board meeting for Wednesday. He's calling it a company direction discussion, but I know what it really is. He's making his move. Already, we just cleared immigration probably. He doesn't even know if you're safe yet. He doesn't care. He thinks I'm distracted, vulnerable. This is when he'll try to push me out, reorganize the company structure, consolidate his power. Jihoon's jaw clenched. I need to be ready. What do you need from me? Pull all the marketing data from the last 18 months. Every campaign, every expense, every vendor payment. If James has been embezzling, there will be traces in the marketing budget. Small discrepancies that add up. On it, she grabbed her laptop, settled on the couch beside him. Anything specific I'm looking for? Invoices that don't quite match deliverables. Vendors that seem legitimate but have no online presence. Payments that are just slightly higher than they should be. James is smart. He won't steal in huge, obvious chunks. He'll skim a few thousand here and there, hidden in legitimate expenses. They worked side by side for hours, Mariam pulling records while Jihoon cross-referenced them against financial statements. Around midnight, she found something. Jihoon, look at this. She turned her laptop to show him an invoice. This vendor, Summit Marketing Solutions, we supposedly paid them $40,000 for a Q2 campaign, but I don't remember working with them. He pulled up his own records. They're in the system as a registered vendor, but look at the registration date, 3 days before the first payment. And there's no contract, no statement of work, nothing documenting what they were supposed to deliver. That's weird, right? That's fraud. He started digging deeper. Summit Marketing Solutions is a shell company, registered to a PO box in Delaware, which is where you register when you want anonymity. I'll bet anything James owns it. They found 6 more suspicious vendors over the next 2 hours, all registered shortly before receiving payments, all lacking proper documentation, all totaling close to $400,000 in suspected embezzlement. This is it, Jihoon said, his voice tight with anger. This is what I need, concrete evidence. What do we do with it? Wednesday's board meeting. I'll present this evidence, call for an internal audit. The board will have no choice but to investigate, and once they start looking, they'll find everything. Mariam felt a chill. He's not going to take this lying down, if you're right about him being dangerous. I know, which is why we need to be smart about this. He closed his laptop. After Wednesday, assuming James is suspended pending investigation, you need to move back to your apartment for a while. What, why? Because once he realizes I'm married, once he realizes you're the one who helped me find the evidence, you become a target. I won't risk your safety. We just convinced immigration we're married. If I suddenly move out, they'll know something's wrong. Then we tell them the truth, that we're having marital problems. It happens. Newlyweds fight. We just need enough separation to keep you safe until James is arrested. No. Mariam surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. We're not doing that. If you're in danger, I'm in danger. We face it together or not at all. Mariam, you said we're partners. You promised to protect me. Well, I'm promising to protect you too. That's what partners do. She met his eyes. Besides, if we separate now, we lose the narrative. Immigration will dig deeper. We can't afford that. He stared at her for a long moment, and she saw the exact second he decided not to argue. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. She started packing up her laptop. Come on, it's past midnight. We both need sleep if we're going to war on Wednesday. They moved through the apartment's nighttime routine, a strange domestic choreography they developed without discussion. She brushed her teeth while he changed into pajamas. He made sure the doors were locked while she set her alarm. Small acts of cohabitation that were starting to feel normal. Mariam, he called from the study where he'd set up his temporary bed. Yeah. Thank you for everything. I know this isn't what you signed up for. She appeared in the doorway. Actually, I'm pretty sure fraud and corporate espionage were in the fine print of that contract. I just didn't read closely enough. He laughed, and she realized she was getting good at making him laugh. It felt like an accomplishment, pulling genuine joy from someone who carried so much weight. Good night, husband, she said. Good night, wife. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered when the fear had transformed into something else. Anticipation, maybe, or partnership, or something she didn't want to name yet. Wednesday morning arrived with the weight of impending battle. Jihoon was up at 5, preparing his presentation. Mariam made coffee and toast, set it in front of him without asking. You need to eat, she said when he tried to wave it away. Can't take down a corrupt business partner on an empty stomach. He ate mechanically, his mind clearly elsewhere. She could see him running through scenarios, planning contingencies. What's your opening move? She asked. I start with the quarterly financial review. Boring stuff, lull everyone into complacency. Then I drop the evidence right in James's lap. By the time he realizes what's happening, the board will already be looking at the numbers. And if he tries to spin it, blame someone else. He'll try, but the paper trail leads straight to him. Shell companies registered in his name, payments approved by his signature. He can't wriggle out of this. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. At 9:30, they drove to the office together. Jihoon's hand found hers in the car, squeezed tight. Stay in your office during the meeting, he said. Don't come out no matter what you hear. I'll be listening on the phone. You're going to conference me in. Mariam. Conference me in, Jihoon. I'm part of this now. I deserve to hear what happens. He didn't argue, just squeezed her hand tighter. The Kang Tech building felt different that morning. Charged with electricity, like everyone could sense something big was coming. Mariam went to her desk, pulled up the conference line and waited. At precisely 10 a.m., Jihoon's voice came through her headphones. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for making time for this emergency meeting. I know you're all busy, so let's dive right in. She heard shuffling papers, chairs scraping. Then James Chen's voice, smooth and confident. Before we start, I have concerns about company direction I'd like to address. Specifically, some recent decisions that seem impulsive. Such as, Jihoon's voice was ice. Such as suddenly getting married without informing the board. It raises questions about judgment, about personal entanglements affecting business decisions. Silence. Then Jihoon, perfectly calm. My personal life is my own business, James. But since you brought it up, yes, I recently married one of our employees. It doesn't affect my ability to run this company. What does affect this company, however, is embezzlement. More silence, then nervous laughter from someone cut short. I've discovered some irregularities in our finances, Jihoon continued. Specifically, payments to vendors that don't exist, shell companies, false invoices. Someone has been stealing from Kang Tech for over a year. Mariam, if you're listening, please send the evidence file to everyone's email. Now. Mariam's hands shook as she forwarded the compiled evidence to the board distribution list. She heard the pings as everyone's phones and laptops received the message. What you're looking at, Jihoon said, are 6 shell companies, all registered to PO boxes, all receiving payments from our marketing budget. Payments approved by James Chen, totaling $400,000 in confirmed theft, likely more once we complete a full audit. This is insane, James sputtered. Those are legitimate vendors. Jihoon is trying to frame me because he's desperate. I have the bank records, James. The shell companies funnel money into accounts you control. I have testimony from our CFO about suspicious payment approvals. I have documentation of you pressuring accounting to process invoices without proper review. Jihoon's voice cut like a blade. You've been stealing from this company, and when I discovered it, you tried to have me deported. You manipulated immigration officials, filed false reports, all to get rid of me before I could expose you. That's a lie. Is it? Because I have emails, screenshots of conversations where you discuss removing obstacles and restructuring leadership. I have proof that you contacted immigration services the same day I confronted you about the missing money. A pause. You're done, James. The question is whether you resign quietly or force us to prosecute. The chaos that erupted made Mariam pull off her headphones. Shouting, accusations, James denying everything while board members demanded answers. It went on for 20 minutes before Jihoon's voice cut through the noise. All in favor of suspending James Chen pending a formal investigation, raise your hand. This is a coup, James shouted. You can't do this, I'll sue, You're suspended, James. Security will escort you from the building. Your access is revoked. Go quietly or make a scene, your choice. More shouting than footsteps, then a door slamming. Mariam sat frozen at her desk, her heart pounding. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. Her office door opened. Jihoon stood there, looking exhausted and triumphant in equal measure. It's over, he said. James is out. The board is calling in forensic accountants. We won. She stood up, crossed to him, and without thinking, hugged him. He stiffened in surprise, then his arms came around her, holding tight. We make a good team, she murmured against his shoulder. The best team. He agreed. They pulled apart when someone cleared their throat. Keisha stood in the doorway, eyes wide. So, she said slowly, that happened. Everyone in the building just got an email about James Chen being suspended for embezzlement. Want to explain how your wife was involved in taking down the second most powerful person in this company? Mariam and Jihoon exchanged glances. Long story, Mariam said. I've got time, Keisha replied, crossing her arms. This was the moment. They could keep lying, maintain the careful fiction, or they could trust someone else with the truth. Jihoon made the decision. Come to my office, both of you. I think we all need coffee and a very long conversation. They spent the next hour explaining everything to Keisha, who listened with increasing disbelief. You're telling me, she said slowly, that your marriage is fake. James was embezzling. Immigration almost deported Jihoon, and you two just took down a corrupt executive using marketing reports. That's pretty accurate, Mariam admitted. Keisha looked at Jihoon. And you're paying her $2 million for this. 1.5 million left to go, yes. Can I be your next fake wife? I could use $1 million. Despite everything, they all laughed. It felt good, releasing the tension that had been building for days. You can't tell anyone, Jihoon said seriously, about the marriage if immigration finds out. Your secret's safe, but you two better actually fall in love after all this, because this would make one hell of a story for your grandkids. Mariam felt her cheeks heat. It's not like that. Sure it isn't, Keisha stood up. I should get back to work, but hey, fake marriage or not, I'm glad you took James down. He was a creep. After she left, Mariam and Jihoon sat in comfortable silence. Do you think we will? She asked finally. Will what? Fall in love, like Keisha said. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, maybe we already are and just haven't realized it yet.